So Sunday morning, I think it's the 25th of October, and I'm lying in bed still. It's about just before 9 o'clock. I woke up at about 7:30, and I've been lying in bed and thinking, just reflecting on my past, reflecting on my childhood, reflecting on my teenage years, my high school prom, my friends' bachelor's parties, my brothers, their weddings, when they got married, who they got married to, what age they got married at, um, my first job, my first kiss, my first heartbreak, when I lost my virginity. I think about my upbringing, my father, the different schools I went to, my mother, the roles they played, and just contemplate. And I just think, what a richness it is, how rich I am to be able to sit and or lie and contemplate and reflect back and see my story, see my journey and what I've been through, and try and make a little bit of sense of it. Reflect on it now from hindsight, from the state of consciousness that I'm in, this the state of awareness that I'm in, which is always expanding. So I'm often looking at things from a different perspective and a different advantage point in a way. And so, you know, I don't know, speaking to my brother the other day, and he said to me that, he's been having terrible anxiety for the last like 4 or 5 months. And, we've been chatting about how potentially he doesn't like himself, or he feels that he deserves any kind of punishment that comes his way because he's not such a nice guy. And, we're talking about his insecurities, we're talking about a lot of things. And I was saying, well, where do you think these things come from? Like, where do you think your self-loathing comes from, or your feeling of not being worthy enough? He says, I have no idea. And like I'm blown away. I'm like, you have no idea. It's not a mystery. There can only be one place. He says, where? Like, you say it with such conviction. You say like there's only one place and that's it. I said, yes. I'll say it's one word. It's childhood. And I've been talking about childhood with him for a long time, and again, trying to, the importance of remembering childhood, or just your feelings of childhood, because that's where you learned to abandon yourself, betray yourself, sabotage yourself. That's where you learned where it's about. And the thing is that, again, it's not blaming parents, it's just not giving them a free pass either. It's just acknowledging. And I was thinking, again, what a luxury it is, or what a, how rich one is when they can kind of look back and see where their story began, where their image of themselves came from, how they were driven into an inauthentic self, how they were driven away from themselves. I don't know what can be more important. I mean, I know that, current news is just as important. I know that current gossip is just as important. I'm being sarcastic, obviously. Sports scores are important. Who's dating who is important. Who's wearing what is important, etc. And more so than that, just that's it. In the world that we live in, it's normal that your past has no relevance, that your upbringing has no relevance, like your molding has no relevance. It's amazing. It's absolutely normal, so we don't think about it. It means that it counts for nothing. The most absurd thing, that it's so normalized that, even in psychology to a large degree. I mean, finally, my brother says to me, you're speaking to a psychologist. After I don't know how many sessions and how many years and how many antidepressants and things like that. And he said to me, you know what, I had such a hard session or therapy, whatever, the other day with my psychologist. He says, I walked away, I felt so despaired. I said, really? I said, why? He says, because I felt sorry for, let's just say his name is Kevin. He says, I felt sorry for the Kevin who was 12 years old, who was 8 years old. Like, I really felt sorry for them. And I was like, hallelujah, brother. Hallelujah, praise the heavens, like can I get an amen or something or other, like finally, after how long, how many years, how old is he? He's 45. How long? So you only first time embraced that you feel sorry for yourself, and again, not victimized, not that it's a victim, not that he's saying, screw mom and dad, screw the rabbis, screw the whatever, my teachers and my principals and whatever it is, and screw Hollywood and for making me feel so insecure, whatever it is, just no. Take little Kevin in your arms, and hold Kevin, and sit and be still with Kevin and embrace and love Kevin, because that's where, oh my heavens, that's where you're taught to abandon yourself, to betray yourself, that you're unlovable, that you're a sinful, person. I mean, my brother, we were raised under a very, very heavy hand of Orthodox rule, Jewish Orthodox rule, where God, my boy, will strike you down just for not saying a blessing before you eat something. Something or other, just something extreme, just fear God. Be very, very careful. Don't step out of line. Whatever it is. He realizes where his anxiety comes from when he's like when exams came around, he was worried that he wasn't going to get good marks, and he started, panicking just like I did, I get so nervous because my father really had a heavy hand on us about being A students, which is impossible to do, And so the anxiety that comes up with starting new challenges, starting anything new, feeling like he's going to make a mistake, even for myself, feeling you're going to make a mistake, feeling that you're not going to do a good enough job, it's not going to do a perfect job, whatever it is, etc., etc. So accessing one's freedom of choice in a way that doesn't align within the goal orientation of my father or motivation of my father, doing something different. Like I said, for myself, when I was a youngster, I wanted to do I don't know, more spiritual things or just whatever. It didn't align. It didn't fall into the Truman Show, the Plato's cave of my father's world, and how I adjusted and how I absorbed, like conformed, and how, for myself, what I'm saying is that, like, now my free choice of not getting married when my brothers got married at the age they got married at, that was like controversial. How can you do that? How can you think for yourself? And I get nervous. I think, what does it mean to be a free person? To make decisions that I feel are what my life is about. Not what other people think my life is about. Not what they deem is valuable in their life, and therefore I feel that it's valuable, and therefore I got to follow it, and I got to believe it, and I got to, because, I was lying in bed now, and I was thinking about my brothers when they got married. They were very, very young. They knew nothing of themselves. They knew nothing about life. At the best of times, you can barely know much about life. But they knew very little. And even these women that they so-called loved, and they loved them, what was that? Because they're all married today. And so you ask yourself, well, what was that? I mean, I was once in love as well, and in my early 20s, and, wanted to marry this woman. It didn't turn out well, which I suppose it was for the best. But what did I know? What did I know about making such a big commitment? What did I know? What did I understand about love? What did I understand about marriage? What did I understand about myself? What did I understand about life? Nothing. And not just me, but I know my brothers too as well. And you know what? Most of my friends as well. All those bachelors that I went to, those drunken, embarrassing, money wasting, time wasting, shameful events. What were they for? They were because, this is what we do. This is what Hollywood does. Bachelors. How many movies are based on bachelor parties? Or whatever it is. I was sitting here feeling sorry for myself, like thinking, geez, Aaron, how many of those bachelors you had to go through weekends away when you went with your so-called buddies and they got so pissed drunk and some of them were married and so they were like so eager to get away from their wife and family and there weren't really strippers involved. There wasn't ever really that, because these were Jewish guys and somewhat religious. Um, but I mean, it would stop at nothing for, we're having a meal and the one guy would be giving a speech. He was so drunk and somebody else would come and pull his pants down and his underpants at the same time. And he would just stand there. This was kind of in a more, not really public place, but we would like hire out, not the whole venue, but like sort of not a nature reserve. I don't know what you want to call it. Just like a little, I don't know, something or other, a little bit out of the town, out of the city. And here's this father of two, pissed out of his mind, standing, naked basically, at a meal where there's food in front of us. He's standing on a chair. He's a banker as well. I mean, maybe a few hours ago he was in a suit and tie and he was at a business meeting. He's a father. He's a man. But here he's standing with his private parts, showing to everybody and not even bothering picking up his pants and everybody pointing fingers and laughing and saying, that's so funny. Like, we can tick that off the bucket list. I mean, the things to get out of hand at a bachelor's, we can tick it off. Guys used to, they took what I think they call it the creepy chlorine here or something like that. Well, that's what they call it. I don't know overseas. The thing that the suction vacuum cleaner in the pool, and they took that out the pool and they took the piping, if you will, and went up to like the first floor, the second floor of the wherever of the building, and we're pouring beers down this long pipe, this vacuum pipe, whatever it is, meters long, and then the guy would stand at the end and sort of just put it, in his throat, like sort of, this was it. This is what you had these devices that you filled up beers, and they're like 2-3 beers in one shot. Funnel, they were called a funnel, and it had, and then somebody would turn it, and you'd have the thing in your mouth, the pipe in your mouth, and you would try and down it as fast as possible. Or something or other, while guys used to sing, down it, down it, down it, down it. This was what was going on. Anyways, besides the point. What do we know? What do we know about these big decisions, life decisions that we're making? What do we know about bringing life into this world? What did we know? We didn't know much. We're such a disadvantage. We're like, and we're not getting any advice from our elders. In fact, we're just getting misdirected as well. So gee whiz, I mean, do me a favor, for heaven's sake. So often I think about these times. I think about my upbringing. Yesterday I was speaking to my mother and she was talking about how I had such difficulties at school and how boring it was, and I went to Jewish day school and I would finish off at Jewish day school. It would start at 7:30 and we would pray for like 45 minutes and then we'd have Jewish studies of studying the Talmud and the Chumash and the Gemara until maybe like, 12 o'clock, and then only then we would start your English studies, or your English, whatever you want to call it, studies. So my school day ended at like 3:30, 4 o'clock. Then I'd get home at 4 o'clock and then I'd have to go to synagogue to pray again. And I used to sit in the most boring classes. I mean, class was boring. All schools should be demolished. And you ask my opinion, all schools should be demolished. Every brick of the building. Every teacher should be fired from their job. I'm sorry, and I'm probably speaking to maybe potentially some teachers. But I'm saying in an ideal world, school is one of the most dangerous activities. It is a concentration camp that kills your very soul. Bored makes, you're killed of boredom. It's horrendous, but of course it's so normalized. It's just so normal. So I was thinking about school and, and how horrific it was and how, waste of time it is and how much pressure it puts on you, And you've got to excel in areas and subjects that you have no interest in, that serve you none whatsoever. And if you're a slightly conscious individual at that young age, you feel it tremendously. You feel the anxiety, you feel the pain, you feel the suffering, you feel the torment of having to sit and listen to this teacher speak for an hour. I used to look outside the window. I used to pray it wouldn't rain before school was out, so I could go to my uncle's house, who lived, in the block next door, so I could swim. But I used to stare at the clouds. I used to stare at the blue. I used to stare at the passing clouds. If I did have the affordability to see outside a window, and I lost track of time and space, and because I couldn't be in that classroom, it was absolute hell. Beautiful day outside. And here I am stuck in this horrific. These plastic chairs, these tiled floors, the smell of the chalk on the chalkboard or whatever it is, and the boring, monotone teacher. Anyways. And anyway, so I sit here and I lie here and I think about all of these things and I reflect on it, and I reflect on how inauthentic the whole upbringing is. I think about my friends and family members and how you taught to wear a mask and how you taught to, again, the big word is abandon yourself, abandon your true self, abandon your feelings, abandon your experience, abandon your history, abandon your story, abandon your upbringing. Really, we taught to abandon ourselves. And in the non-dual community, you're taught to abandon yourself completely and utterly. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why would God put us here and have a story if the story was invalid? Everything in nature has a meaning. Everything in nature has a purpose. Everything has a purpose. It's rich in purpose. Anyway, I think about this. I think about how people today, as soon as they wake up, they switch on their cell phone. They get into conversations, they go and fry some bacon and eggs. And they get lost in the world while the TV's on, or something or other, while they're replying to their messages on Facebook, while the children are running around on their iPad, whatever it is. I'm just saying the commotion. Like, I think about my brother's lives. And I was speaking to my mother about this yesterday. And I really feel sorry for my brothers. I really feel sorry for so many people. I really feel empathy, because it's like their lives are so overwhelmed. They are so overwhelmed with everything that's going on that they can't have a moment to breathe. They can't have a moment to reflect. They can't have a moment to make sense of anything. And I look at my brothers and I say, is that because they abandoned themselves? I mean, did they get themselves into this situation in life because they abandoned themselves, because they followed somebody else's plan? Did we make the choice? And my mother says, no, she doesn't think consciously we made the choice to get married at a very young age because the culture and society and the religion was putting pressure on us. And we found a woman who was similar to us. We had similar interests, and therefore just, well, what's the big deal? Let's just make it happen. Like, we couldn't see the bigger long-term picture of it. We couldn't see that far. So it seemed like good on paper. I mean, everybody does it, so why not? Let's just do it. And then let's just have, 4 or 5 children, And yet, and dealing also with this change, this current time, this current change. Satguru was talking to a rabbi. And Satguru was saying that there's no reason to educate children. They can educate themselves. And he wasn't talking about schooling, but he was talking about schooling in a way. But he was telling them that you don't really need to teach them too much about life. They'll figure it out on their own. Which is not true, which might have been true when they were in India 100 years ago, when the children were learning from the people around them, when the people were generally very healthy and directed and, whatever it was, and it was a supportive and loving environment. Times have changed. Sadhguru is talking about an older time where you don't have to protect your children almost from the addictions of, Candy Crushes and cell phones and technology and media and television. Where in India did you have such high influences of satanic worship and things like that? Where did you have that? You didn't have that. So your children could play freely. That you didn't have to monitor them in that way of how they're going to be, what propaganda is lying out there, whatever it is. It's a whole nother story. But anyways, my point being for myself today with my brothers, following an old traditional way of getting married at a young age, having children and being able to cope with everything in a world that's changing so fast that you can't even remember what you had for breakfast by midday. How is it that we must coexist with this change of technology at the pace that we are living in the world that's going, and being inverted every single day, even more and more so. Well, we never prepared for these times that we are in, folks. People never prepared for them. They never anticipated it. All they're just wishing is that it will go away. I can't handle this. They didn't teach me this in school. They didn't teach me this in university. They didn't teach me this because they didn't teach me, about the psyche, about spirit, about mysticism, about occultism, about evil and good and evil, about cycles of time. They never taught me that. They just taught me how to, sit in a classroom, be a good boy and girl, regurgitate, this whatever, be a good repeat, and that was it. I was never prepared. So I look and I feel so sorry for people that weren't prepared. People now that are, still having so many children. And in a world that it's like, okay, fine, if you're called to do it, if it happens, whenever it is. But like, if you're doing it just because you're unconscious and this is the thing that you're supposed to do, well then, and each their own at the same time. But what I'm saying is that when I look at my brothers and I look at my friends or whatever it was, they weren't prepared. They didn't know what they were getting into. Although the culture and society said, get married, you got to get married at a young age, your maternal clock is ticking or something like that. I mean, I remember Rachel from Friends, when she had her 30th birthday. She didn't want to leave her room. She said, that's it, I can't believe it. I'm so old, I haven't got a boyfriend. My whole life is in ruins. It's going to take me a year to date somebody, another year to get married to them or something like that. And then after a year of knowing them, then we can only have our first child, which will take another 9 months. And then by 33, I'll be only having my first child. So it's a whole big balls up. So it's a wasted life. Meanwhile, not realizing what a real waste of life is. What is a real wasted life? And well, that's not living an authentic life. That's not living a life of your own choosing, of your own heart, motivation or determination or something like that. Living in Plato's cave, living in the Truman Show. So I look and I say, I look at these people and I say, what can be done? What can be salvaged? How can they be advised? How can things turn out better for them? Because like I was saying to my mother, it's not getting any better. It's only getting worse. It's only getting worse. Oh, Aaron, you're so negative. You can't see the the light at the end of the tunnel. That's our biggest problem, folks. That's our biggest problem, is that we can wishful think that it's going to get better. We can wishful think that there's no such thing as narcissists and psychopaths that run the world, that are involved in things, and that are, that people are becoming more narcissistic by the day, and that we're hurting each other more and more every day on the planet. That's so negative. It's like, and our children are becoming more and more addicted, more and more mind controlled, more and more, reliant on pharmaceuticals or whatever it is. But, can't you just see, That's why the New Age is such a, anesthesia, It's such the ability to put you to sleep. Just focus on the now, people. Focus on the now. There is no future, there is no past, there is only now. So just embrace the now, and all will be well. I'm not saying there isn't a truth to the now, but the way that it's sold is as to anesthetize you, to numb you, in so many ways. Anyways, besides the point. So what is my point? That I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand a lot of these things, obviously, because I don't think that, like I said to my mother, I was born different. I was born this way, which I might have mentioned in the previous conversation, where I would not conform, where I would rebel, where I would not live somebody else's life to the degree of which I know myself. And to the degree of which I know how not to live somebody else's life. I'm not saying that I haven't made always the best choices. I certainly haven't. And I'm flawed in many ways. Obviously, but that's besides the point. But I was able, and my life is not necessarily better or organized than other people, I would say. But at least I have more of my finger on the pulse than most people. At least I feel that my life is more authentic than theirs is. But at the same time, I still feel insecure about myself. I still feel I don't feel worthy of myself. I don't feel valued a lot. Most of the time, I don't feel, and not because I'm better than anybody else, but because of the life that I've chosen to live. Does that make sense? In that way, it's like my life isn't, perhaps it's in fairly better order. And perhaps from my perspective, I feel that it's more genuine. I feel that it's more in line with my spirit. And no, that doesn't give me a sense of enlightenment and constant well-being and interconnectedness and firing on all cylinders. Not at all. I just managed to keep my head above the waters. But I was born this way. And others weren't. So was it just their destiny? Was it just their destiny? I don't know. And what's their future like? I don't know, folks, but this is the question we're asking for people on this planet. Was it destiny that the world was going to take this road? Because people weren't necessarily, born with more of an adept, insightful or older soul or something or other, What I'm saying is that, like, you build a self-sustainable country, completely self-sustaining, free energy, the whole toot. Now you bring people who come from let's say a small town is completely self-sustained, from the growing of vegetables to everything. I'm just saying it's completely self-sustaining and supporting of nature. Then you bring people from a capitalistic country or town that is completely dependent on destroying nature, polluting the environment, polluting themselves, and then bring them over and think that they're going to be able to learn how to be sustainable. And I'm saying sustainable holistically, in body, mind, and spirit. Like, it's impossible. It's impossible that they're going to be able to. I'm saying take away the people that were running it self-sustainingly in a holistic way, understanding that, there's karma, there's consequence, that if I chop down that tree, it's going to have an effect. They understand that if I pollute this river or something or other, if I overfish, they understand in themselves, greed, corruption. They're living holistically, they're living balanced. Masculine, feminine energies aligned. Now you bring somebody else and to take over this, and you say, can they do it? And say they can't do it. It's like what happened in this country, in South Africa. You had the English, the Europeans coming in, setting up a democracy, if you want to call it, civilization, so-called civilization in a way. Buildings, governments, cars, petrol, technology, Gregorian calendar, whatever it is, and then expected to hand it over to African tribal people and say, here you go. And I don't know. Maybe it could have been done, maybe not. I mean, Botswana seems to have gotten it right. So how does that make sense? But you get what I'm saying. And so what I mean is that for people to try and get this life right when they have no idea how, and from the get-go they're traumatized, they're conditioned, they're programmed, you know, they learn to self-betrayal, self-deceive, self-abandonment, whatever it is. They're given all the tools and all the devices to get them addicted, to get them drugged up, you name it. So do they stand a chance? See, again, I've asked this question so many times. It's a question and answer I don't necessarily know. I still think that people can, in their own right, make small decisions, and you know, for the greater good, for the, you know, towards goodness. Again, just small incremental decisions that can help them. You know, move inch by inch. Even myself, small, step by step, small step by step. You know, I've had this conversation, I mean, endlessly, but that's why I try and figure out the world that we live in. I mean, people aren't going to, you know, not wear masks. Majority of people are not going to wear masks. Majority of people are not going to buy and see that it's not genuine, that it's a lie, that they're being deceived. And they're not going to see. A majority of people aren't going to see. So they're going to follow hook, line, and sinker. They're going to follow hook, line, and sinker without even asking most of the time. And that's what we can accept, and that's what's understandable. Anyways, that's something else. But ending off here, folks, for myself, you know, feeling very blessed, feeling very responsible, and again, feeling very isolated and alone, and like, what, you know, this is such a foreign place for me. Not that I know any other place, but it just seems so foreign. In my being, it feels foreign. It doesn't feel like home. It doesn't feel comfortable. It feels like be inspired to grow out of it. I have mixed feelings about it, just like you do, you know, a lot of the time. But here's my thing that I was sitting here thinking of, because I was saying to my mother even yesterday, why on earth, if we choose to come here, if we choose to, you know, be born into the families that we're born into, if we could see from a higher perspective, if we could see the conditions of which we were coming into, why oh why would we decide to come into this, to choose to be born, incarnated into this world, into this time, into the families, into the indoctrinated systems, into the matrix, into Plato's cave, into the toxins, into the poisons in body, mind, and spirit? Why, oh why would we do it? And that's the question. Why, oh why would I do it? And spend the first 16 years of my life or 14 years of my life indoctrinated into a school system, being bored out of my mind, suffering, painful suffering in my life now, feeling a lot of pain. And the word, you know, loneliness is not just loneliness. Loneliness is painful. Loneliness is painful. It's not just like, oh, you know, a little cramp or something like that. I'm saying, well, it's just something minor. It's just kind of, it's got no feeling to it. It's just a word. Loneliness is painful. So why? Why would I do it? And I think I can answer that for myself sometimes not. For other people, I don't know why the soul chooses to come down here. But here's the one thing that I wanted to end off on, is that I think that when we decide to come down here, is that we don't make the decision on our own. We make the decision with other souls that we meet along the way. Or say, I'll meet you then. you know. I'll meet you on the journey. I'll meet you on the path, such as you folks listening to this now, you know. And knowing that we, you know, from that perspective, we probably say, well, look, we have so many guides, we have so many angels looking at us, observing us all the time, you know, that we're never really alone. We are alone in body, mind, and we are alone. Don't get me wrong, I am alone because there is a separation. But can I have an idea that I am observed, I'm heard, even the words that I'm saying? You know, when Paul Selig, the channeler, or most channel people, they'll just tune in. They'll just like, 1 second, zoop, and all of a sudden they tuned into their guides. It's like, what, you got your guides on speed dial. Like, they're not busy somewhere else. They're not, I don't know, in the John. You know, they're not channeling. No, they seem to be always available. I've never seen a channel person say, oh no, they're not available right now. I've never seen it. So that means that they're always readily available, 24/7. How does that work? That's far out, folks. That is absolutely far out. And I really feel truly strongly that people do channel. I think a lot of people hoax it. But I think a guy like Paul Selig is absolutely genuine. I can't seem to say why not. I don't think a guy like Neale Donald Walsch is channeling God. There's just no ways. It's just his character doesn't align with it at all. You know, just his vibe, his energy doesn't. Just his general type of wisdom that he speaks, that comes from, just doesn't seem real. But listen to a guy like Paul Selig, which also speaks on very similar tones. That's Paul, Paulselig. It's very hard to listen to because he repeats the words. He repeats himself. So it's not easy to listen to. But his interviews are great. And so they're readily available on speed dial. It's just like, you know, 1 second, okay, I've got them. No distance, no sort of delay, you know, like, oh, I'm losing signal here. Nothing, just pure, boom, straight. So what I'm saying is, like, I lie here, and I just think about, like, how we are monitored and how we are looked at, we are observed. And that's very interesting. For whatever reasons, I'm not sure why. Are we guided and aided? Potentially, yes. You know? But it's so far out, that idea. It's so far out. I mean, even for myself, as, you know, being a Jewish guy, you know, brought up Jewish, you know, God is, like, you find him in the temples, and, you know, there are angels in a way, but you never really discuss it or taught about that or envision that. It's like nothing like that. Or your guides. You know, you don't have guides. You're on your own. Type of thing. Like, you're not part of a family of guides. Or something or other. Like in the movie Vanilla Sky. You know, tech support. They watch him, they watch his every move. He's dreaming. He's frozen. He doesn't know that he's frozen. Cryogenically frozen, David Ames, and he's dreaming, and the tech support are observing his dreams. You know, like in the Matrix, where on the Nebuchadnezzar, the screens that you can see into the Matrix, and you can see everything. They can see the code. It gets far out, folks. What is this world made of? Code? Are we sitting in code right now, and therefore code could be read? You know, we think of, like, cameras in the sky that we're being observed by. I don't know, folks, it gets bloody far out. It really, really does. It gets really mystical. It really, really does. You know, it can get freaky sometimes, I suppose. You know, and so on and so forth. And so that's it, folks. It's like, I don't know. I mean, this is where I'm standing at the moment, like making that decision of saying, well, let's incarnate here, because before you incarnate, you're standing around with a whole tribe of guides and people. I'm saying souls, or whatever you want to call it, that love you. They're going to guide you. They're going to, like sort of support you. They're going to cheer you on. And that you can call upon them in a way, in different ways, ways that you're comfortable with, and they'll give you, a hint and a synchronicity, and they'll. But sometimes I feel they drop the ball, as Manadoma Samay would say. Sometimes he feels that his ancestors, you know, make a bit of a mess up sometimes. I mean, when you speak about, the Dogon tribes, and they'll talk about their ancestors, they're very familiar with it. They can believe it. I mean, I'm sure other native tribes, native or whatever it is, nomad living on the land, they'll tell you 100%. In every step you take, in every branch you break unnecessarily, whatever it is, your life is being accounted for. You don't walk alone, and not just so you can be responsible and be a good, but out of love, out of concern for your well-being. I don't know if this makes any sense, folks. I mean, it does, but like, it's still a work in progress, all of this. So this was just what I was thinking about this morning, as opposed to maybe just checking my Facebook account or something like that. Can you see how far out the different lives are? Can you see for myself how extreme my life is? Even to my lady friend who's not here this morning, but like, for her, she'll wake up, she puts the TV on, and she grabs the cell phone, and then she's got, then she'll grab the iPad to play Candy Crush. So she's got these devices going on, and then, she's not doing any of this kind of reflection. Even when I walk into the room, I tell her, please switch off the TV or press pause, because it's just too overwhelming for me. But for her, she's so immersed in, like, I walk into that world, and she looks at me from these eyes of just being completely, engrossed, plugged into the matrix. And I'm like, well, I feel worlds apart. I feel anxiety about it. I feel despaired about it. Because, well, she's just an example of what everything else, has become, in a way, most people have become, in a way. So do feel rather very isolated and alone in that sense, while everybody else is so plugged in. They're literally plugged into their chairs in the matrix. They got the cables straight into the back of their skulls, right? They're sleeping on those chairs. That's the world that they're in. You come around and you wave your hand in front of them. You say, hello, anybody there? They don't pick up the soul. They don't pick up your presence, your real presence, the truth of what you are. All that you can do is appear to them in the matrix as a character within the matrix that they can understand. Wearing a certain type of clothing, talking a certain type of talk, whatever is there, those are things that they understand. It's because the matrix has been told them, these are what you look for. This is what a person is. This is what a father is. This is what a mother is. But it's all in the matrix terms. You get married at this young age, in your early 20s. You have this many children. You choose a career choice. You have the life part, at the age of 18 for the rest of your life. This is what the matrix does. And this is what people are doing. And this is what they plugged into. And myself as well, to a large degree. But to a degree that, that's not, but not a full degree. And that's where most people are at. It's a harsh reality. It's a harsh reality to think about. It's harsh to understand how plugged in people are. But we consider it just to be normal. We don't realize that they're so plugged in because it's normal. If we actually lived on another planet with conscious individuals, self-sustaining, holistic, whatever it is, and contrast that to what it is, how present the people are, how present the children are, what peace is like, what health is like, what imagination is like, what ceremony is like, what family is like, what old age is like, what youth is like, and all these discussions, everything like that, and we contrast it back to the aliveness of people today and the passion, the presence of people today, you would see straight away that people are not present. People are not really here. You know, they're ghosts, they're figments of the imagination, they're barely present. They themselves, they haven't called themselves forth. They abandoned themselves in the desert a long time ago. And now they're just being pulled through the, and I know it's heavy, it is heavy, but I mean, that's what happens. It's what awakening is, The New Age will talk about awakening as enlightenment as something so blissful and so like, um, groundbreaking and shattering and like so, I don't know, charming. But like you see in the Matrix, Neo waking up from the Matrix is a disaster. It's an absolute hell. He wakes up in this pod and he looks around and he sees all these other people that are in pods, that are wired up like womb, like children in the womb or something like that. And it's like, this is what he sees. It's like, no ways. Can you imagine waking up to that reality? So I'm saying there is an element of that to a certain degree, that people are absolutely plugged in. So no wonder you heart sore a lot of the time. No wonder you feel lonely a lot of the time. No wonder you feel despaired a lot of the time. No wonder you feel that you're not being felt, you're not being understood, you're not being recognized, you're not being, you're not being reflected back to who you truly are as an individual, true, divine, unique spirit. You're not having that. You're not really getting that. You're not having that kind of support, right? You're not having that kind of encouragement. So you feel very despaired, you feel very lonely, and you start to loathe and hate this place and the people of it, I don't know, folks. It's intense. So that is what awakening is. That is the responsibility of the awakened person at the same time, to hold the weight of all of this on their shoulders. So why would we incarnate in this world to live in a pod, to be plugged into the matrix? Why would we do it? Well, these are questions that one day we might work out. We might understand one day, but for now it's very hard to understand. It truly is a mystery. It truly is, profound. And incarnation can help explain it, because we go round and round and round until eventually we wake up. We become our own neos, in a sense, and that's the journey back to the source. Maybe, perhaps, who knows? These are all just assumptions right now. We certainly do not know. And if we did know, I'm not sure if we'd be able to understand in this, on this sort of mind level, on this sort of, with the monkey mind in a way. Maybe perhaps we could if we're very, I don't know, but maybe shamans do, masters in some kind of ways, or whatever it is they do. I don't know. Anyways, folks, that's it for now, I suppose. But yeah, it's a heavy message, but it's a positive one at the same time, because there is meaning behind it. There's no conclusions here, and it's positive and it's empowering, but it's also intense, and it's also difficult, and it's also despairing. It's a profound 360 experience, if you call, of all everything. It's just profound. All right, folks, with that, I wish you well, much love, and take care.